Hello, and welcome to the Maryland Energy Innovation Accelerator Cohort 1 finale. It's great to see almost 100 people at our first showcase event. My name is Brian Toll, and I am the MEIA Director. MEIA, which is sometimes affectionately called MEIA, is an initiative of the Maryland Clean Energy Center. MEIA is a venture development program that focuses primarily on commercializing technology developed at Maryland-based universities and laboratories. MEIA's mission is to accelerate the creation and development of investable Maryland-based advanced energy businesses. Our first speaker today is Maryland Clean Energy Center Board Chair, Jeff Oxnam. Jeff is also founder and CEO of American Microgrid Solutions. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you everybody for making the time today. Distinguished guests, sponsors, and above all you, the cohort, the first cohort of MEIA. This is an incredible moment of passion, innovation, and execution to bring Maryland's advanced energy leadership to the forefront. It's also a moment to take a second to congratulate the people who really put the muscle behind bringing this project together. Brian Toll, Ben Margolis, Kathy Magruder, and the staff at the Maryland Clean Energy Center. This effort that you're going to see today and these incredible companies that are on their way is part of the work by the Maryland Clean Energy Center to advance the adoption of clean energy, efficiency products, services, and technology. Maryland Clean Energy Center leverages private capital to help owners, businesses, schools, and communities. Over the years, we've leveraged over $75 million to reduce costs, provided low-interest loans to more than 4,000 Maryland residents, helped reduce costs for universities and schools throughout the state. But today, we're really excited about that part of our mission that's about technology and advancing us towards the future. I remember when Ben and Kathy first approached me about this idea. It was a very rainy day on Kent Island, and we sat down and we talked about what was happening. And what Brian talked about was something special, something different, something that helped advance Maryland beyond the position of leadership it had already achieved to bring these companies and this technology to the forefront. Today is about channeling collaboration to innovate success. It's about bringing together inventors, researchers, founders, and entrepreneurs with strategic partners, local businesses, and service providers. It's an approach that lets inventors do what they're going to do very well and gets other people on board to make sure that they're successful. So it's an exciting one, and I'm glad you're here today to enjoy it. I'd like to take a quick second to thank our sponsors today who make this happen, but also help make the program happen. Exelon Corporation, including Constellation Technology Ventures, Banner Witkoff, Nelson Mullins, Paley Rothman, Points North Studio, and Snyder Cohn. Thank you for being here and helping to bring this dream to fruition. Now it's my pleasure to introduce a leader and tireless champion of the intersection between advanced energy and innovative technology. Delegate Lily Chi is a Democrat representing District 15 in Rockville. It's been her vision and passion to help support what we're doing here and throughout Maryland Clean Energy Center. For that, we're eternally grateful. Delegate Chi is a member of the Economic Matters Committee, a member of the Maryland Legislative Asian American and Pacific Islander Caucus, Maryland Legislative Transit Caucus, Women Legislators of Maryland, and associate member of the Maryland Legislative Latino Caucus. Delegate Chi, thank you for your leadership and thank you for being here today.
I just unmuted myself. Thank you very much, Jeff, and thank you, Brian, for inviting me to this exciting moment. I would try to follow Jeff's very eloquent introduction, and thank you for rattling off all of the titles that I forgot I actually have, all the memberships that I signed up for. Thank you very much. I want to commend the great team, Kathy Magruder, Brian Toll, and the entire team of MEIA for this wonderful work to bring the partners together to drive our important conversations on innovation economy, which is a topic I'm very passionate about. And I want to take a moment to, of course, congratulate the first cohort of entrepreneurs, which is a very exciting term that I will never get tired of. And to thank the investors for taking the time to listen to their stories and give them a chance to succeed. Especially now, we need you more than ever. I am from Montgomery County, which means innovation is in our DNA, literally. And really, Maryland as an entire state is enormously blessed for having unrivaled innovation assets. But we also know that innovation alone is not enough. We have to marry innovation with entrepreneurship in order to drive our economic growth. And that holds the key to our future economy, especially if you look at even a place like Montgomery County. Our economy is really very lopsidedly dependent on federal spending and the local consumer spending. This pandemic just reveals all of that much more acutely. So now more than ever, we have to look at our long-term strategy of economic development, economic growth. And very few industries or sectors hold the key to that promise than clean energy innovation and clean tech. So in my past work, I had the fortune of working for Montgomery County, which is a 1 million+ community with unbelievable assets in driving the conversations on economic strategy and economic development policies. And one of the areas we really focused on was innovation economy by leveraging our incredible assets of R&D, especially in biotech areas, to accelerate tech transfer and commercialization. I was instrumental in helping to establish a P3, which is a public-private partnership called the Biohealth Innovation. The idea is to use the federal assets and university research assets to drive our innovation growth in the biotech sector. I think it's time for us to use that concept and apply to clean energy innovation and clean tech. So that we can grow a whole new cluster of industries, not just in R&D, but also in manufacturing within our state of Maryland. So in the last legislative session, I was fortunate to have partnered with MEIA and the Maryland Clean Energy Center in introducing a bill with my senator from District 15, Senator Brian Feldman, in not only enhancing the funding for these entities, but also in calling for TEDCO, the Commerce Department, and the Accelerator and the University of Maryland and the Clean Energy Center to work together to really drive the entrepreneurship and innovation in clean energy and clean tech. So I want to continue my work as a public sector partner in that regard. But as Jeff mentioned earlier, it really takes all hands on deck approach. Government needs to be an enabler, needs to provide appropriate incentives and policies. The private sector investors need to step up. And we really need you to, in order to address this valley of death kind of phenomenon that confronts all of the small early stage R&D businesses, especially after they have depleted federal funding. They really need your support to give them a push. So I'm really looking forward to our partnership, and I will commit to doing whatever I can, both as a member of Economic Matters Committee and as a champion and a cheerleader for innovation economy in working with you very closely. And I look forward to your ideas. And finally, I just want to congratulate you again and good luck with your today's pitching session. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Delegate Chi. I'm going to introduce our next speaker, Ben Margolis, who is Commercialization Manager at MEIA. Welcome, Ben.
As always. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know me, Ben Margolis, the Commercialization Manager at MEIA. Basically, I work with the teams as a project manager through our program. And for those of you that don't know about our program, I just want to give a high-level overview. So the concept behind MEIA is to support early stage science and clean tech. Our goal is really to avoid stranded innovations. Now, these are great technologies that may not see the light of day because there are no founders identified or firms to necessarily license the technology at such an early stage. And I can't stress enough how important this technology is, because this is climate change we're talking about. So there's no time to waste in getting the solutions to market. Now, the basic idea here is to support early stage innovations with a full team approach. Now, the startup team in the middle here, in this case, is an inventor or a researcher that needs help forming a team or bringing a product to market, or it could be a new company that's just getting started. We match that startup team with business executives or energy executives in residence, as we call it, or EEIRs. We then approach the market for strategic partnerships to support and mentor those teams. And we also match them with support from our professional services providers, such as several of the law, accounting, and design firms that you'll hear from today. And along the process, because everyone is part-time, we provide a level of program management and go through a 6-month curriculum that ends with our capstone event today. So ultimately, we believe this turns a startup into an investable company with the team, market guidance, and support to bring a product to market. And so the process, so high level, what does the process look like? Just to give you an idea of what the teams have been through up until now. So the first step, MEIA is doing outreach to the whole community, building relationships with labs, corporations, executives to build out the network and ecosystem. I should also say we're always continuing to build that out. So if you have any inquiries or thoughts, questions, comments, feel free to reach out. Always interested in conversations. The inventor or researcher applies to our cohort directly. MEIA then goes through a qualification process, and we're generally looking for pre-revenue or pre-formation startups based around hard science or IP. And when we say clean tech, we're speaking more broadly than energy. We are looking at agriculture and other applications as well. And I should also say we're currently accepting applications. We've recently shifted from a cohort-based structure to rolling admissions. So if you're interested at all in the program, feel free to reach out or check out our website, email, etc. Once qualified, each team leader then goes through the EEIR hiring process. Now, these EEIRs were qualified by MEIA and we established the network, but each EEIR actually had to apply for an individual position and then go through interviews with the team leaders to be accepted into a team. We actually had 2 interview nights in person, one in Baltimore, one in College Park, when we were able to gather in person back in the day. And we ended up placing 7 EEIRs out of 28 applicants. And I'll also add that we are continuing to build out that network to find the perfect fit for each team and technology. So especially now that we're using rolling admissions, we're continuing to establish that network. If you're interested in being involved as an EEIR or involved in any of these teams, again, feel free to reach out. So then together, the team goes through our curriculum. This consists of team building activities, customer discovery, where our teams actually participated in a local NSF I-Core node, and deliverables including business models, financial models, strategies, and plans. All the while, we're hosting monthly seminars and weekly meetings. And then for those that have found product market fit and are looking for investor feedback, they come to the capstone event here today. And yeah, here we are. So yeah, they've all done extensive preparation for this. They've been through the whole process here and I'm excited to see it. So yeah, with that, I'll wish all of our presenters good luck and pass the baton back to Brian.
Great, thank you so much, Ben. So now it's time to meet our judges. First, we have Curtis Schickner from Constellation Technology Ventures. Welcome, Curtis.
Thank you, Brian, and hi, everyone. My name is Curtis Schickner, and I've been with Constellation for about 10 years and within Constellation Technology Ventures for 5 years. Constellation Technology Ventures is Exelon Corporation's venture investing arm, and we look at technologies that are either complementary to Exelon's existing business units or disruptive to the energy sector more broadly. We make investments into early stage companies from Series A to growth stage investments and generally invest $1 to $5 million. It was interesting hearing Ben talk about his role as a commercialization lead In addition to our investing function, we also have a commercialization team within Constellation, where we work with our portfolio companies, of which we have 17 right now, to either deploy the technology or service internally through our existing business units, or externally through our customers by either adding on to existing products or creating new products within the market. Thank you, Brian.
Terrific. Our second judge today is Claire Brito Johnson from the Maryland Momentum Fund. Welcome, Claire.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for attending today. It's great to see all these faces. I wish we were all together in person. I run the Maryland Momentum Fund, which is a $10 million industry agnostic fund that supports early stage startups loosely affiliated with the University System of Maryland. We typically invest $250,000 to $500,000 in early stage startups that either have a professor or alum or student who is from one of our 12 schools, where there's IP from one of our 12 schools, or where the company rents space from one of our 12 schools. I've been a clean energy entrepreneur for about 25 years. I originally came to Baltimore to work for Constellation and then founded SunEdison here in 2003, sold it in 2009, have done a bunch of consulting for energy companies, primarily not in the Maryland area. And so I'm excited to see the growth of the clean energy industry here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. Our last judge is Michael Campos from Prime Impact Fund. Welcome, Michael.
Hi, everyone. It's wonderful to be here, and thank you all for the invitation. I'm Michael Campos, and I'm with Prime Impact Fund. Prime Impact Fund is a venture capital fund investing in breakthrough climate technologies at their earliest stages. We're an unapologetically impact-first fund in that we define success as large-scale greenhouse gas emissions reductions. However, we believe that in order to achieve this kind of impact, the companies we invest in must become financially self-sustaining and reach scale. And our fund structure, governance, and incentives are all aligned with these goals. I come from a technical background. I have a PhD in chemistry and spent a couple of years at ARPA-E in the Department of Energy. And importantly to this event, I grew up in Montgomery County, Maryland, and went to Wooten High School in Rockville. So I can tell you there's a lot going right in Maryland, and it's wonderful to take part in this event.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us. So we're now ready to start with our first team, which is Active Charge. Please welcome Pranay Kohli. Pranay, you will have 10 minutes for your presentation and 10 minutes of Q&A with the judges. Please begin.
Thank you, Brian. Hi, my name is Pranay, and we are presenting a Active Charge today. It's a wind energy innovation company. We are developing our technology at the University of Maryland system, and it primarily how to take the next big step towards blade monitoring. Next slide, please, Ben. Yes. So what is so important about our technology? And what is so important about monitoring the blades? The wind turbines are getting bigger and bigger, and the blades are getting bigger and bigger as well, and they're always moving. And it's very difficult to an idea. Many of all these days, the blades could be 100 meters or more. And how do we monitor them? Because if there is a lightning strike, the blade gets damaged. If there is unusual vibration, the blade gets damaged. Or if there is any other problem with the blade, and if we don't monitor it, it becomes a problem if we don't monitor it regularly. So how do we do that today? We either send people up the climb, which is very costly. It takes time. We have to stop the turbine, and it's dangerous. Or we could use batteries, but these batteries will run out every 6 months. And if you have several different sensors in the blade, I mean, you will keep on changing the batteries in the blade, and it becomes a big problem. Wires, I mean, instead of using batteries, one could use wires in the blade, but of course, that provides a path for the lightning to come down and increases the lightning risk. And as the length of the blades is increasing, this situation is getting worse because we need to monitor more, not less. And here we don't have a good solution. Next slide, Ben. So our solution is self-powered. It sends the data wirelessly and collects all the data to provide actionable analytics so that we can dramatically increase the efficiency of wind turbines, of any wind turbine which is 1 megawatt or more, and it does not require a battery replacement. It has very dependable, frequent data that comes down wirelessly. And of course, it can provide predictive operation and maintenance insights, which is currently not available. Next one, please. And we believe that one of the major things is we are not increasing the O&M cost, which is currently the cost to monitor the blades. We're not increasing that at all. However, we are reducing the manual monitoring portion by 75%. We don't need to send people up. We don't need to change the batteries. We don't need to stop the turbines. And that reduces the current cost by 75%. We don't need to stop the turbines, reduces or increases the downtime by 2 or 3 days a year, which is big. And of course, because we have so much data, the probability of catastrophic failures is reduced 10 times. And all in all, we believe that it is 4 times the value than the existed blade operation and maintenance. That's what is being done today. Next, please. And we are happy to say that the wind turbine industry is increasing. The whole market is exploding, not only globally, but in our neighborhood, in Maryland, in New Jersey, in Massachusetts, wherever we see, both offshore and onshore, the wind turbines are increasing. And we see rapid growth during the active charge scaling years, meaning the years then we are trying to scale our work, the number of wind turbines, the number of the market available to us is very, very substantial and growing. Next, please. And of course, not only the new wind turbines, but the existing turbines that are going to be refurbished. They are going to be retrofitted, for example, in Europe, which is slightly ahead of us. But even in the US, we can retrofit those turbines as well with our devices. And that presents another huge market for us. Next, please. And if we see the wind turbine industry, everybody is looking at every penny if they can save it. And if our device, our solution can help them reduce their own, I think there is a very receptive market. And we believe that with our 4 times the value than cost, we believe that we have a very good market, which we believe is about $1.5 billion per year blade monitoring market by 2024, when we believe we will be reaching up to some scale. Next, please. And we believe this not only a market, but we also believe that the competition is still catching up. There are interesting concepts in the market, but compared to what is available today, for example, the sensors are not self-powered. They can't monitor everything. And of course, they can't communicate very well wirelessly with a central receiver. Competition, all of them are making good progress in their own ways, but we believe that we offer the most comprehensive, forward-looking, innovative solution as compared to the rest of the competitors. And also, we may say that we are patenting this technology, this solution, so nobody can copy us as we go. Next slide, please, Ben. And we started the company about 2 years back. And since then, we have been in touch with the market as much as possible. And because that provides us the market insight so that we can develop the product in consultation with the market, not in a vacuum. And I'm pleased to say that we are in touch with one of our big wind turbine manufacturers, Siemens Gamesa. We are in touch with GE Renewable Energy. US Wind, that has the license to build Maryland's first offshore project. They're based in Baltimore. We have a strategic partnership with them. And we just received a strategic sponsorship from Exelon Corporation. And I think that collaboration, that sponsorship is taking us far quickly towards the market. I was able to speak to several of the independent service providers in Germany this March, Deutsche Windtechnik, UV, and our Alpha Energy, which is based in work with industry, so that we get the right feedback into our product development, but also quickly move on to the commercial stage when we are ready. Next, please. And we know not only the product, but we are also presenting, and in that process, we will be able to provide not only the product, but also run it for the wind turbine owners, and also provide all the analytics so that the whole process can be integrated. And on the other hand, we are with the wind turbine maker throughout the life cycle of the wind turbine, which is about 20 years, instead of just selling them a product. And towards that end, we have tried very hard to make our design very low cost, very robust, which is very easy to install, and we provide the whole service end to end, making it a very attractive proposition. Next, please. Our team is our biggest asset, and it's myself and Dr. Subham Lee, who actually started the company. He is a associate professor of mechanical engineering, great resource for us. Dr. Ahmed Abdelaziz, our technology VP, and of course, Eric Desrosiers, who has been working with us on the financial side to come up with a nice model for the finance. And as you can see, we have quite a bit of breadth and depth into the skills and resources that we need. And we believe that as a start, we are a very good team that's working together. And of course, we look forward to expanding our team. Next, please. So from our perspective, we believe that we can make this company profitable within 4 or 5 years. And let's start from today, or rather from last year. So the first award that we got was from TEDCO. And we now have 2 investment rounds from TEDCO, MEIA investments. And they have been a great help in helping us connecting with lots of people within this region, in addition to the financial input. And last year, we also got in touch with US Wind. We have a strategic partnership with them, as well as this year, we are fortunate to be part of MEIA first cohort. We have greatly benefited from that. And as part of that, we were able to get Exelon sponsorship as well, strategic sponsorship. And now we are in the process of field testing our solution, first on a smaller scale, then of course on a bigger wind turbine. And lots of companies are helping us with an aim to have a commercial launch in 2022 and reaching profitability by 2025. Next, please. So to realize our vision and milestones, we at this time believe a $500,000 investment can help us realize our plans in the next year and a half. And we believe that we can use that $500,000 investment, 75% of that in further developing our product so that it's ready, fully ready for the market. I think at this stage, I would like to thank the judges and the audience, and I'm ready for
Great, thank you, Pranay.
questions. Thank you.
So we've had a little bit of technical challenges, Pranay, so we'll do our best with the Q&A, and we'll start with Curtis, and we'll go in a round robin fashion from Curtis to Claire to Michael. So Curtis, please go ahead.
Thank you, Pranay. Really enjoyed your presentation. I guess my first question is, how and where do you install these sensors, and what types of data are you collecting from each asset?
So if I understood the question, because it was a little bit break up, how do you install it or where do you install it?
And what types of data are you collecting from each asset?
No, I still couldn't understand the question. If you can write it as. Okay. So typically we would go 9 to 12 sensors for a 1 megawatt to 2 megawatt wind turbine. That's how many sensors in each blade. And the data could be vibration data, it could be ice accumulation data, it could be temperature, any kind of sensor that you need in any part of the blade, which is very difficult to reach, our device will reach there and provide data, live data from there for the life of the turbine.
Claire, you want to go ahead?
Sure, and I just texted the question to Pranay as well. Nice to see you, Pranay, good job. Can you share more information about your business development plan? You say you've been in conversations with Siemens and GE. What does that mean? Are they buying your product? Are you in some sort of partnership? It'd be great to get a little more information.
So with GE, the discussions are just initiated, but for example, with Exelon, or even our business model is they will buy, I mean, they already have the sensors in many situations, and we will be selling them just the product and integrate it with their existing sensors. So the installation cost is very minimal, or the one-time cost is very minimal.
Michael, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, so here I just put this question in the chat as well, but could insights gleaned from these sensors feed back into next generation turbine design and enable things like reductions in the amount of steel? Or in other words, is there a virtuous cycle to take advantage of?
Yes, and a big part of our solution is how much more data that we can get from the blade turbines. I mean, blades of the turbines, because that's what is missing right now. We don't even have the blade data, and with our solution, when the data is available, dependable, frequent data available, we can do so many things. We can make the wind turbines more efficient. We can make them, we can help them design them better so that we use less material. We can do efficiency at the percentage rate, which is a big thing, because now we know if we run these turbines a little bit faster or a little bit slower, the wind turbine may actually be much more efficient. So yes, data analytics is the most critical output, the most important output of our solution. Yes.
Well, back to Curtis if you have a follow-up.
I do, and I just sent it again. So my question is, what is the communication protocol that is used by the sensors, and how are the end users, whether it's the OEMs themselves or a customer like Exelon, using this data?
Yes. So the communication protocol that we are using is Zigbee. And we have also looked into a couple of other protocols as well. And that is actually part of our field testing right now. As we speak, we are preparing our tests and doing that. And also, it is independent of the data transmission that they are using, because we are giving them analyzed data, which will be, on the internet backbone that actually is there right now in the wind turbine. So we can integrate with their solutions as needed.
Okay, Claire, you want to read your next question?
Sure. Can you discuss the unit economics a bit more? What are the costs to you, the sales price, the cost comparison with other technologies?
So Claire just wrote a question regarding the unit economics. So we expect the cost of the product, as we have done until now, in the range of $300 to $500 each. But please consider that this is a test product, and when we start making this in bigger numbers, the cost is going to go down. Okay, and we model with the people or the companies that actually install this, and we will be providing them a service. The cost of this product has been kept very low, as well as we have taken great care to be able to attach this to existing wind turbines. So all of that is going right now, and we believe that will be profitable by 2025 and break even in a couple of years after that.
Okay, Michael, would you have a follow-up?
Yeah, so I put it in the chat as well. What specific sensing or analytics milestones have been demonstrated to date, and at what scale have those been achieved?
Okay, so we have been working on this in the lab for about 1.5 years, and we have a real vibration sensor. Vibration is one of the major in the lab, and now we are working on a field test, and of course we'll be testing for 3 different sensors before we actually, as part of the next several months, lightning, vibration, and ice. These are the 3 sensors we're going to start with, but of course we can integrate with all kinds of sensors.
Okay, well, that's we're going to stop our Q&A and thank Pranay for your presentation. Thank you so much. In our next section, first I want to mention that MEIA is supported by sponsors that provide both financial and in-kind support. And I want to thank our sponsors and give all of you a chance to meet them. So first, let's start with Teresa Christian from Exelon. Welcome, Teresa.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, everyone. Brian, I want to thank you for the introduction, and I want to thank you very much for reaching out to Exelon during the evolution of this program and for giving us the opportunity to participate as a sponsor in the Maryland Energy Innovation Accelerator. We're very excited about the teams that you've been able to bring through the accelerator already and about continuing to engage with teams you may engage with going forward. So for those who may be less familiar with Exelon, I want to take a moment to give you an intro to the company. Exelon Corporation is a publicly traded energy company with activities in every stage of the energy business. Exelon owns and operates power plants, and our power generation fleet is especially low carbon, with a focus on nuclear and natural gas power generators, as well as renewable assets on the generation fleet. Exelon is also active in competitive energy sales through our Constellation business unit, which is where Constellation Technology Ventures sits, as you've heard Curtis mention already. And on the utility side, Exelon provides transmission and delivery of electricity and natural gas to about 10 million customers through 6 utilities that are part of the Exelon family. And here in Maryland, those are Pepco and Baltimore Gas and Electricity. So you may be familiar with Exelon companies, even if you haven't come across the name Exelon until now. But in terms of Exelon's participation in MEIA and why it's exciting for us, Exelon is deeply aware of the fact that technology innovation is important for the energy system of today and the energy system of tomorrow. And because of this, we're committed as a company to engaging with the technology development ecosystem in creative ways whether that is strategic venture investing or other types of partnerships with new ideas and new concepts that are emerging into commercial ventures across their journey. So we're enthusiastic about the role that MEIA is playing in strengthening the innovation ecosystem around clean energy here in our own community in Maryland. And very grateful again, Brian, for giving us the opportunity to be part of this community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now let's meet Steve Sparber from Nelson Mullins. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Brian, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Steve Sparber. I'm with the law firm of Nelson Mullins. I'm based in Washington, D.C., and it's really been our pleasure these last few months to be outside counsel to the cohort members and gain to work with many of you. My background, just for everyone's, I'm an energy attorney by trade. I started my career at FERC. I've been in private practice and also worked at PJM. And my practice and also Nelson Mullins' energy team generally is really focused on representing, I'd say the future of the grid. We tend to work predominantly with renewable energy providers and emerging technology providers such as electric vehicle chargers and microgrids. And, so when I got to learn about the great work that the cohort's doing, that Brian and Ben are up to, really jumped at the opportunity to provide pro bono legal services to the cohort and all the cohort members. And it's really been our pleasure the last few months. So many of the cohort members I've gotten to know, and some of you guys have actually been working with quite a bit, and really been great opportunity for us and great experience for us to provide legal services to the member companies, but also importantly, and I think this is something for everyone to be aware of, also what we can be a source of introductions to a lot of the different cohort member companies. I represent the American Wind Energy Association and the Solar Energy Industry Association. We have a heavy tent towards renewables. So anything we can do as well, not just in terms of direct legal services, but also general advice and counsel to members as they go through the different stages of the project of the company development. We're happy to help with that too. So I'm going to turn it back to Brian, but congratulations to everyone for making it through the first cohort. I'm sure it will be the first of many, and we look forward to helping you out moving forward.
Thank you very much, Steve. Really appreciate it. I'd like to now introduce Jessica Watson from Points North Studio. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you so much, Brian. And also thank you, MEIA, for the opportunity to sponsor and work with the teams as part of this program. My name is Jess Watson, and I'm the CEO of Points North Studio. We are based in Baltimore, Maryland, and we are celebrating 10 years in business this year. For Points North, we're big on branding, web design, and communication. For this cohort program, we worked with the teams on developing strong, memorable brands and with translating the work that they're doing into well-designed pitch deck presentations. We've been very impressed with the teams and the innovative solutions that they are cultivating. Points North is a creative services studio. We partner with CEOs, executives, and entrepreneurs to transform them from where they are into where they want to be. With over a decade of experience working in marketing for diverse companies, global foundations, and startups, we know what truly drives brand loyalty and conversions. And it's not about jumping on the bandwagon of the latest trend. It's about the passion you have for the work and how well you connect with the people you serve. Thank you again for letting us be a part of this, and congratulations to everyone involved.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Okay, we're going to move on to our second team, which is called Alchemity. I'm going to welcome Mike Peterson and Professor Eric Waxman from the University of Maryland. Mike and Eric, you'll have 10 minutes for your presentation and 10 minutes of Q&A with the judges. The floor is yours.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, before we get started here and talk about Alchemity, I'd like you all to take a look at the 6 product icons on your screen. If I asked each of you what would lower the cost of these goods, you'd probably say software or chip for the computer and phone, or electronics for your grill settings and refrigerator, or maybe lighter and stronger materials for your car, or a new chemical composition for your nasal spray. And that all might be true. But I'm here with Alchemity today to tell you about an innovation that's going to revolutionize the basis for production of all of these very distinct goods and services that on the surface don't seem to have much in common, and how our technology will lower the cost of goods sold in an environmentally friendlier way while doing it. Next slide, please. And this innovation relates to something called natural gas liquids, without which we wouldn't have our plastics for our phone and computer, or propane for our grills. We wouldn't have refrigerant in our refrigerators to keep our food cool, or our nasal spray. I'm here today and I'm going to start by teaching you a little bit about natural gas liquids because they're kind of complicated. And then we're going to show you how together we can upend the 95-year-old incumbent process and production model for what is a $60 billion industry through our company, Alchemity, which we aim to fundamentally reshape the energy industry with a novel technology application that offers a simpler, faster, cheaper, and distributable gas to liquids chemical conversion process without producing emissions. Very quickly for an overview, you might recognize some of the names of the liquids at the top here: ethane, propane, butane. Those are all the forms of natural gas liquids that are used as a base to create the plastics and medicines and cleaning supplies and even the gasoline for our cars. And they're very much the building blocks that we enjoy, all the things in our lives and that drive our economy. And they're produced in two ways. The first is as a naturally occurring byproduct of oil and gas drilling, which is kind of what you see up there on the left. And secondly, they can also be produced directly from gas in a handful of mega scale, multi-billion-dollar plants, which are very limited. There are only 4 industrial sites in the world, and they're all in Qatar, Nigeria, and Malaysia. To give you a sense of what gas liquids technology costs today, the most recently commissioned plant construction was $19 billion. It took 500 million man hours to build, and it sits on a plot of land half the size of Central Park in New York City. And it's only at that scale that the existing and current technology for gas to liquids conversion allows for an investment business case. Next slide, please. All right. And so with that, we've identified many problems as part of our natural gas liquids industry. But the big problem that we believe that we can address most quickly is around an underdeveloped, inefficient, and costly supply chain that increases consumer costs and their carbon footprint. This map is obviously a map of the United States. The US produces 22% of all the gas in the world. We're the #1 gas producer, and we produce more natural gas liquids through our drilling processes than any other country on earth. And we don't have any gas to liquids processing. And the reason for that is we don't have enough infrastructure in this country coming from these primary gas fields in North Dakota, Pennsylvania, or out west. And actually, in order to move those products, they have to come through just a few distinct pipelines, and they primarily end up in Conway, Kansas, or outside of Houston, where they're stored in these big, huge salt caverns. And then in order to get back out to their customers, not exclusively transported this way, because there are some pipelines in the Midwest and a few in portions of the East, but essentially all that product has to be moved from those hubs to the West Coast, where there's no other transport methodology than rail and trucking. And the same thing's true of trying to get any product into the Northeast or down into Florida. We're captive to these 2 major natural gas hubs. And that's, again, because we require primarily salt caverns, which are located in geographically limited areas in order to actually hold all of this product before it gets to market. So just to give an example of the efficiency, in order for it to get propane to get to Los Angeles for your grill, it could be produced in North Dakota, sent to Texas for treatment and storage, then put on that rail car and railed out to California, where it would be stored somewhere above ground, and then it would be trucked out to the consumers. And yet there are actually natural gas producing fields 3 hours east of Los Angeles that can't participate in that market. So it's pretty simple. The longer and more efficient the transportation to market, the greater the cost for buyers and consumers who have to pay tolling fees, have different and strict regulatory requirements for rail cars and trucks, have to deal in arbitrage for storage. And if there was a technology that could help those customers avoid paying the fees for pipeline transportation and liquid separation along the way in Kansas or in Texas, those fees that are built into existing contracts, then our US natural gas customers could have avoided $7.6 billion in fees last year, simply because we have a captive market and not a lot of ways to move it. Next slide, please. Okay, and this is where Alchemity comes in. Our Alchemity solution, which we'll talk to in just a second, is going to open the door for distributed, what we're calling micro gas to liquid systems. You can see here, there are no pipelines. You have Alchemity products scattered around the United States, close to some of the producing natural gas fields, that obviously will be able to bring that product to market in a much more efficient manner than exists today. You know, it's going to open that door to small-scale distributed gas liquids deployment. It's going to eliminate the need to remain captive to large-scale capital investments and costs associated with natural gas infrastructure. You can think of it a lot like a farm-to-table movement for food, but applied, in this case, for all the feedstock for production of all the goods and services that we enjoy. We will reduce trucking miles, prevent the need for land getting torn up for pipeline inlays, and the safety risks and costs of long-distance rail transport. Next slide, please. Okay, and here's the Alchemity solution. Our genius scientists on the Alchemity team have been working in labs, and they have created a one-step membrane reactor. And you don't have to be a scientist to make sense of this. The picture on the right shows a conventional gas-liquid process that those huge plants that are overseas are using today to produce liquids from gas. And Alchemity essentially takes these three big events and all the associated equipment and investment that goes into actually making that possible, and it creates a reactor that can combine all of that activity into one step, and all the associated costs go away. And it truly is a solution where gas comes into a membrane reactor and out go those liquids. There are four kind of key parts and added value opportunities here. It's an intensified process. This opens the door for smaller, cleaner, more energy efficient gas liquids production. It reduces costs by opening the market to natural gas liquid contracts without having to pay all those midstream fees for transport and storage. It has an application for carbon capture and use, which is an environmental application where we can use it to convert waste gas into new revenue. And if we're able to do that in our midstream and upstream portions of the energy sector here in the United States, we could reduce the US gas emissions by 33%. And it also opens the door for flexible product mix. You can change the output, meaning the types of liquids that it produced, very simply with a catalyst selection and sweep gas, and it can offer far more product mix than any other small gas to liquids technology which is being worked today. Just as a side note, we do have, we're very early stage, still barely coming out of the lab, but there is intellectual property and patents associated with the technology. 3 patents been issued, 3 are in process. So we're working to control that and make sure that it works for us. Next slide, please. So who are our customer segments be? Well, this is the exciting thing. We think that we could service all 3 primary segments of the energy industry, from the midstream US natural gas processing facilities who flare gas, and we believe we could have a micro GTL unit that would be part of their gas flaring systems. We could capture it instead of burning it off into the environment, converting it to a liquid, which then they could sell right back into their existing infrastructure. Same thing with US oil and gas drilling. We envision moving these around wellheads, capturing that gas, turning it into products, and again, avoiding that flaring activity, which is causing environmental harm. And the really big opportunity comes from what we showed on that map. The opportunity to develop and scale small-scale gas liquid plants distributed around the United States, closer to gas plays, and being able to bring that product to market by cutting out the middleman. Next slide, please. And so as far as that goes, we also need, as part of our process, we've identified a key stakeholder landscape. Because we're brand new and looking to accelerate, we know that we're going to need potential strategic partners, and we would see some of those integrated energy giants that are in the gas liquids plants in business today, like Shell and Chevron, who not only have been working at research and development in the field for 40 years, but they also have access to the midstream, downstream, and upstream spaces. And they would be a great brand to bring alongside with us. Same thing on our customers. We've already identified that midstream companies who are in the natural gas liquids processing business today, we think they would actually benefit. We don't view ourselves as really competitors to them. We view us as an augmentation. And last bit would be the customers. There are some other companies that are doing small scale gas liquids plant development. None of them have been successful year to date because they're using incumbent technology scaled down to a small size, which has already been proven by the market to not be productive in any way and actually not make any sense economically. The most recent plant that was developed in a small scale in Oklahoma was commissioned in 2017, and by 2018 it had failed because it was just too expensive. As part of our customer discovery process, it's worth noting this quote here that a gentleman who works at Shell in the gas liquids business, when presented with the Alchemity solution, it stated that this is something every chemical company has been working at for years, and this may be the code that everyone's tried to crack. Next slide. All right, our business model is pretty quick, pretty easy. We're just going to sell microreactors and charge a commission on some service fees. We estimate that a cost for these micro units, we'd sell them at about $143,000. They cost about $85,000 to make. So we're looking for a gross margin of about 40%, but we think that's fair because the return on investment for any customer is a little over 1.5 years. And we think that's a very competitive amount of time and offers a high value proposition for anyone. Next slide, please. Okay, and this is our financial model. Based on a relatively conservative estimate of how many units we believe could be sold, we think that by 2030, 9 years from now, we could be deploying about 140 units a year for about 600 in the market, and we'd be bringing in revenues or EBITDA numbers of a little bit under $8 million a year. And we don't think it'll take us too long to get to market. There's some research and development work that has to get done, and we think we could be selling and deploying by year 2, year 3. Next slide, please. And this is last bit here, our team. You've got me, Mike Peterson. I've got 10 years in the oil and gas industry. I've been working at Shell for almost 11 years now, so I have some experience in the upstream space as well as in corporate affairs. I also had spent a year in a startup in Germany. We've got Greg Cooper, a founder and former CTO of an advanced materials company in Maryland. He's also done quite a bit of startup business consulting and brings a breadth of experience from the startup side. And of course, the two people who made this possible, the scientists that have actually invented the technology. We have Dongja Liu, who's been working in research around in this particular subject area for over 9 years at University of Maryland and done some fellowships up in Rochester. And of course, Eric Waxman, who many of you probably know. He's a seasoned inventor and very active in the energy innovation space. He's founded a couple companies. He's currently the founder and executive chair of a VC-backed battery storage company and brings a lot to the table for us. And that leads us to our last bit, our ask. And our ask, we really need about $2.5 million in order to get this going. We've just submitted a grant to the Department of Energy that aligns with our technology application for $2 million. We're at a TRL 3 level, so still early stage, and we're going to need that to refine the technology and begin thinking ahead to prototyping and product development. But from a private sector ask, we're going to be looking for $500,000, and that's really just to get us up, started, and running, to cover our legal fees for company setup, our IP patent landscape review, and there are some exclusive licensing agreements we'd have to sign, as well as just general business development. And with that, I will thank you all for your time.
Great, thank you very much, Mike. And I'm going to turn it over to Curtis for questions.
Thanks, Mike. That was a great presentation. You talked about some of the traditional technologies or how some other competitors have tried to do this in the past. Could you maybe just talk briefly about some of the challenges they faced and why you think you can overcome some of those challenges?
Definitely. I think it's pretty simple, and thanks for asking. You know, essentially there are about 10 companies worldwide that have been trying to do this small scale gas to liquids processing for just the reasons we've named. Very inefficient supply chain, it's not distributed at all, but it's an important part of the energy market. And the reason that they haven't been successful is, you know, there's still quite a high capital investment, even if you're trying to scale down one of these plants. So the average cost of the deployed gas liquids plants have been about $250 million per plant build and development. And essentially what they're using is they're using that existing technology that those big companies like Shell or Sasol and Chevron are doing overseas. And they've really, it's a process called Fischer-Tropsch, which is those kind of 3 big steps that we showed in sequence. And they've really just worked hard in their own ways to try to scale it down to a smaller size. And it's just not proving successful. The costs compared to, especially, you know, when natural gas liquids they're traded in commodities markets, the price fluctuates quite a bit. You know, 8 years ago, it was $15 a barrel. Today, it's $3.60. So there's a lot of economics that go along with it. But we think that our technology, by really simplifying that process, by breaking down those steps, is going to just, that's really the key to all of this and making gas liquids at a smaller scale a reality. It's never going to work with the existing technology applications. No matter how hard and well-intended all these other small scale developers have tried. And we think that's really the value add of this Alchemy reactor, which really does it all in almost one fell swoop.
Can I add to that also, because I also want to explain the environmental benefit of it. The existing technology is an oxidation process. So they do what they do, they form syngas. They oxidize the methane to CO and hydrogen, and then it goes through Fischer-Tropsch and everything else. They have to have a complete air separation plant just to start, and that just doesn't scale down. Our process is not oxidative. It, in fact, is a non-oxidative process, which is shown here. And because of that, we actually don't form any CO2. So the impact on climate is immense. I mean, this is your gigaton type of impact on CO2 emissions, because you just removed all of the oxidation to CO2 in these plants. Instead, we take hydrogen away from the methane. That hydrogen goes through the membrane and it's oxidized by the air, which is free, to form water. The only byproduct is water. And that provides all the heat and energy necessary to operate the reactor. So we're talking gigaton reduction in CO2 emissions in the US alone using this type of technology.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Claire?
Yeah, and great presentation, Mike. You did a really nice job. My question has to do not with the technology, but rather how much money are you going to need between now and I think you said 2030, when you anticipated making $8 million of revenue, as a first part of that question. And the second part of that question is, who do you think is going to buy this product first to get you that $8 million of revenue in a year?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, so we have to do a bit more economic analysis, and it's obviously a lot of conjecture at this point, right? This is essentially a brand new
It's
problem.
early stage. That's
early stage.
Yeah.
You know, we think, you know, we certainly think, you know, part of that $500,000 ask at the beginning, we think that can get us a couple years. We've just spoken to lawyers about what it's going to, you know, our biggest concern really was around IP protection and kind of just the fundamentals of starting a business. We just got that number today from the law firm, and I find it very reasonable, and I think the $500,000 will probably carry us a couple years until we can actually start getting more revenue. So, you know, it's a good question. I probably don't have a good answer for you today. I need to do a little bit more research to try to figure out, you know, what we really need to carry us forward. But you know, the big thing for us at the moment is really getting that money for technology development, which obviously we know is the challenge with clean tech development in general. It's, you know, that's the big piece here, because there's certainly some refinement that needs to be done and some improvements on efficiency, and we have to show it at a scale too. It's, you know, in a lab right now, it's proven at a, you know, with a very small, very tiny, thin membrane, but the science is, you know, is proven effective. The second part of your question, who we're going to sell to, I mean, this is the exciting part of this, right? We're talking right now about micro GTL reactors, which really can produce only about 4,000 barrels of these natural gas liquids a year. And that's not a lot of natural gas liquid, right? That being said, we see an opportunity to deploy it in the upstream space, meaning the oil and gas drilling areas. We estimated that you would need around 1,600 of these units, micro GTL units, deployed in the producing fields in the United States, this is largely North Dakota, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and West Texas, New Mexico. We think with 1,600 attached to these wellheads as part of a well development period. For example, these wells flare for about 2 weeks after the initial drilling of a well occurs, and then they're usually all capped. But we see an opportunity to kind of, with 1,600, you could pretty much move these, and because they're small, they can be mobile around the United States. And the US basically accounts for about 20% of the global wells drilled in a year. So there's, you know, and again, you'd have to replenish these over time, but that would be part of the upstream space. As far as the midstream, the natural gas liquid processing plants, there are 510 of those in the United States right now. Each one of those also flares its own gas, but so we believe that we could help them capture some of that waste product as part of their just general operations, convert it to a liquid. And the beautiful thing about that, and this is why we view them as a smart first customer segment, is because they have existing natural gas liquid technology right where they're at. They're controlling the pipelines. They're separating that liquid or gas that's coming down in from the oil and gas fields. And we think this would be a really great augmentation for them, and also could just be a new type of business operation. They have the perfect gas that's clean and dry, ready for conversion. So you could see an opportunity for them maybe to say, hey, you know, we might want to get into this business ourselves. Microreactors would certainly work, but there could be an opportunity for a larger scale unit as well. And that's the beautiful thing about this technology. We are not just talking about, you know, our vision is about a refrigerator sized unit near a wellhead or anywhere where there's flaring going on that would produce about 4,000 barrels a year. Of course, you need storage tanks on site and all the ancillary pieces of it. But the other side of it is we're not limited to just a micro size. With this technology and the number of steps that it's reduced, which reduces a huge amount of the capital requirements, we think this offers a brand new opportunity for any customer size that would be necessary. And this could be scaled all the way up to potentially that mega scale for a company like Shell or Chevron. So we see real versatility with the design opportunities and possibilities.
Yep.
Michael?
Hey, Michael. This is Michael. Nice job. Thanks for the overview. My question is, if a unit is situated basically anywhere upstream of a refinery, there's sort of limited control over gas composition that you have. And so my question would be, what cleanup needs to happen on the front end before it enters one of these units? And same on the back end, what about post-processing needs?
So that's a great question, and it's not something we should shy away from. In order for this to work and for this equipment to be durable, you do need clean gas. So your point is well taken. This is a standalone reactor as now, but there's no question that upstream of this unit, we would need to have some sort of gas cleaning process. Now that equipment exists, but it also suggests an opportunity for a partnership for companies that are in gas cleaning and gas processing. We actually spoke to a company in Maryland that's in a biogas industry. They do this, they actually clean methane, produce methane from poultry waste. And they had talked about how they do that right on site near these big anaerobic digestion tanks. And then they clean that gas and inject it straight into the grid. And when I brought this concept to them, they said, all right, that would be, the companies that we partner with for gas cleaning, that would be a natural partner for you. And for a relatively small size unit, we think that would be an opportunity. But there's no question that's another piece of the equation to solve, making sure that, especially if we're out in field deployment, we're going to need to have not just the reactor, but we would need a gas cleaning equipment to work with it as well.
Okay, I think we are out of time for Alchemity, so thank you very much, Michael and Eric. And while the judges are filling out their scorecards, I would like to introduce Gary Federico from Banner Whitcoff. Welcome, Gary.
Thank you, Brian. On behalf of Banner and Whitcoff, my colleague Mike Cuviello and I would like to congratulate the teams of Cohort 1 on making it to pitch day. We really enjoyed working with you and learning about your technology. We are a national law firm which specializes in intellectual property. Next slide, please. And we've been working with the teams to educate them on how to protect their intellectual property and why this is critical to their success going forward. For those that may not be familiar with the IP, what we are referring to are patents, trademarks, copyrights, and trade secrets. We've been around for 100 years, which makes us one of the oldest IP firms in the country, and we have over 125 intellectual property professionals. Most of us have an engineering or science degree, which span every possible discipline you can imagine, and nearly half of us have advanced degrees. Next slide. We provide a myriad of intellectual property services, some of which are listed on this slide. During Cohort 1, we provided several teams advice related to patent licensing and due diligence. In fact, we just helped Alchemity on their project where we delivered the results this morning and look forward to potentially working with them again in the future. We also provided a presentation on intellectual property strategy for startups and fielded a number of questions on our presentation. We have found these issues to be interesting and hope the teams found our advice and presentation to be helpful. Again, we congratulate the teams on making it this far and we wish them all great success. Thank you for the opportunity to work with MEIA and the teams. Brian?
Thanks very much, Gary. Our next sponsor is Joe Bishop from Snyder Cohen. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate the opportunity. Good afternoon, everyone. So like you just said, my name is Joe Bishop. I'm a CPA and a supervisor in the Audit and Accounting Division of Snyder Cohen. We're a CPA firm in North Bethesda, Maryland. And we serve a wide variety of clients in several industries, but I myself specialize in serving emerging companies in the tech industry, as do a number of professionals at our firm who are all members of our technology team. In fact, one of our partners, Cheryl Huser, and one of our senior managers, Mandy Lamb, are leading members of that team and are here today, first and foremost, to make sure I get this right, but more importantly, to get to know you all better. They're both UMD alumni, and as a firm, we frequently engage with UMD to hold various workshops and presentations on accounting issues. We service our technology clients from both the financial statement side and the tax side, helping solve a wide variety of problems and also providing general consulting services whenever needed. And we're always excited to work with young clients who have great, exciting ideas and are just starting out because we enjoy the process of growing and learning with them. And some of the common issues we frequently help our clients with include form of organization, specifically the advantages and disadvantages of forming as a corporation or as a partnership, R&D issues, including the many tax credits that are potentially available for R&D work, compensation issues, including equity compensation, and also bookkeeping issues such as chart of accounts and software solutions that are available for small businesses, mainly QuickBooks. In fact, we have an outsourced accounting division that specializes in using QuickBooks and can help you set it up and implement it and so forth. With our sponsorship, we're excited to provide you with pro bono services and to assist with any questions or issues you may have. And we look forward to working with you and getting to know you all better. Thank you very much, and good luck to everybody.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. Now we'd like to introduce Jim Hammerschmidt from Paley Rothman. Welcome, Jim.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of MEIA, Brian. We've been involved with MEIA since Brian came to us last, I guess it was last fall, maybe early winter, to talk about the opportunities with the group. Paley Rothman is a law firm of about 45 attorneys, located here, born and bred in Montgomery County, Maryland. We've worked with Snyder Cohen. I think we have a good relationship with them, so we're excited to be part of this group. I'm the co-president of the firm. I've been co-president of Paley Rothman for about 8 years. We have a wide variety of support services for all stages of companies, but we get particularly excited, sort of as Joe said, about the opportunity to be engaged with early stage companies and really help them form their growth pattern and to think about the various challenges that early stage companies face, but to also understand the challenges that they will face as they grow and the various exit opportunities as well. So we start from the very beginning when we're talking with early stage founders and other businesses to think about what that will look like as they grow and as they exit, and to help them with all range of legal services and advice, from tax to employment to IP to benefits and ERISA issues. That's sort of where Paley Rothman thrives as a law firm, is in that in-house counsel role, but as an outside firm, helping companies really understand the opportunities, get over challenges, and keep you focused on your business. I guess it was last week, Brian, if I'm not mistaken, one of my partners, Art House, gave a webinar on founders equity. And again, that's the kind of wheelhouse stuff that we really get excited about helping early stage companies with, is trying to preserve that founders equity as they grow. So again, congratulations to everyone, Pranay and Mike and Eric, fantastic presentations, and we look forward to hearing from Adam, and we look forward to continuing to participate in this space and assisting each of you as your companies grow and accelerate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jim. Appreciate it. And now we're going to shift to Adam, and the third team today is Pulse IQ. Welcome, Adam Landsman. Adam, you have 10 minutes to present, and then you'll have another 10 minutes of Q&A with the judges. Please begin. Adam, we don't have you.
There we go. Thank you, Brian, and to the MEIA, and thank you to all of you for being here today. I'm grateful for your time and for your commitment to energy innovation in the state of Maryland. My name is Adam Landsman. I'm the president of Pulse IQ, and I'm going to talk about how our energy management solution can help improve building performance with the power of data analytics. And I want to start by illustrating the scale of the opportunity we're working to address. Buildings account for 40% of the energy consumed every year in the US, and 30% of that energy is wasted. This means every year our buildings waste about 12 quadrillion BTUs of energy. That's a 12 with 15 zeros after it. Financially, it's about $150 billion. Another way to think about it is that our buildings waste as much energy as Brazil uses every year. And Brazil is the 8th highest energy consuming nation on Earth. So we see opportunity in addressing this needless waste And that's why I'm excited to tell you about the profits that can be unlocked by property technology like PulseIQ. PulseIQ's energy management solution is specifically designed to address the needs of master meter multifamily properties like condos, co-ops, and apartments. This is an underserved market for 3 reasons. First, most other service providers in the space are going after bigger fish like Class A office towers, hospitals, and universities. Second, and I can tell you from personal experience, it's notoriously tough to motivate property managers and owners who often lack the manpower and resources for what have traditionally been expensive and complicated deployments. And third, a lot of the existing hardware solutions, especially around smart thermostats, just aren't compatible with the type of older HVAC equipment you find in these apartments. They don't work without Wi-Fi, and most of these buildings almost never have that Wi-Fi. So we know that energy is typically the single largest cost center for master meter multifamily buildings, and that HVAC is the single largest consumer of energy. We also know that today these buildings are facing what I call a perfect storm of financial pressures. They're struggling with aging infrastructure, competition for more modern architecture, and now with COVID, residents are using even more energy and not paying rent. So the question is, what's the most profitable way to address these pain points? And the answer is simple: go where the money is. You go after that 30% waste. Now, you've heard the phrase, you can't manage what you can't measure. And that's exactly the problem here. Central HVAC operations and energy efficiency are a giant black box. In a property with an antiquated building automation system, or often none at all, managers and owners can only know if their systems are running or not running, but they have no way to see how efficiently their HVAC systems are running or how efficiently they could be running. Put another way, they don't know that they're losing money, they don't know how much money they're losing, and they don't know how to stop. And we know that most buildings, especially these master meter multifamily buildings, are unwittingly throwing 30% of their energy out the window, literally. Next slide. PulseIQ's energy management solution opens up that black box. We use the power of IoT and data and analytics to make invisible problems visible and therefore manageable. The simplest way to explain how we do what we do is that we connect, collect, and conserve. So we connect to every piece of equipment and a wide range of sensors in the mechanical room. We connect to every apartment with our unique patented mesh network thermostats, which are compatible with the equipment you find in older apartments and work without the need for Wi-Fi or other IT infrastructure anywhere in the building. We collect millions of rows of data from all of these endpoints and send it securely to the cloud and make it visible to the clients with a web-based dashboard. And we conserve energy with our software that provides real-time system optimization, monitoring and alarms, and actionable energy analytics. The result is an optimized building that's always running at peak efficiency. So what does optimization yield? First and foremost, we increase net operating income, NOI, and we increase property values. So we deliver verifiable energy cost savings, and we typically find that about 15% or half of that 30% waste is really easily achievable, low-hanging fruit. In terms of property value, if you calculate property value as NOI, that net operating income divided by the capitalization rate, so NOI divided by cap rate, and we assume a cap rate of about 5% for these types of buildings in this area, that means for every $10,000 of savings that we render, we add $200,000 to the value of the building. Think about that for a moment. Now, in terms of maintenance costs, our online dashboards create visibility across the HVAC system, from the mechanical room to the apartments. Our early warning alarms catch problems before they become critical failures. And all of this reduces downtime and emergencies and all the overtime maintenance costs that go along with that, and it extends the useful life of the equipment. Regarding tenant satisfaction, study after study has shown that green buildings offer tenants more comfort and satisfaction, leading directly to higher rent and less turnover. Clients also get new marketing opportunities around sustainability that will really resonate with that key millennial market and help maintain competitiveness with newer buildings. Next slide, please. So let's take a look at how this plays out in the real world. This is our beta site. It's a 91-unit mid-rise apartment building in Arlington. In 2019, this property spent about $16,000 to cool the building for their 5-month cooling season. Our system showed us that not only was this inefficient, but what needed to be done to fix it. And as a result of these fixes, this year, their cooling system is running 63% more efficiently. Over the course of the season, it's going to save them about $10,000. And again, if we assume that the cap rate is 5%, this $10,000 savings, an increase in NOI, is going to increase the value of this property by about $200,000. The payback on what we did was less than a year, and without any utility incentives. Unfortunately, they're in Virginia, but if they were in Maryland, these types of improvements could have generated a rebate from PEPCO of about $20,000. And also, this is just phase one. This is the lowest of the low-hanging fruit. There's a lot more savings that we'll capture over time as we gain experience with the property and as we expand our capabilities. Next slide, please. So looking at the competition, there's an active market around energy management, and that's a good thing. However, what I typically see are that other solutions are either very narrow plays, or they're trying to be everything to everybody, and they wind up without a coherent value proposition or product. At PulseIQ, we offer an easily consumable, managed solution specifically built for the needs of the master meter multifamily market. Like other solutions, we have a building automation system at the core of our solution, but ours is built with robust and affordable and open source hardware rather than the expensive and proprietary systems that really haven't changed much since the 1980s. We also provide unique visibility into the apartments with our patented mesh network thermostats. However, unlike our competitors in the thermostat space, our thermostats work on high voltage equipment commonly found in these buildings, and we have some patents around that. And they don't require any Wi-Fi or other IT infrastructure, and we have some patents around that as well, with more coming. Now, a lot of companies these days are offering analytics, but they're only valuable if they're useful to the target audience. And our analytics are designed for the unique needs of managers and engineers and owners in the multifamily space. And finally, we offer a comprehensive managed service, which means our clients don't need to worry about multiple vendors, multiple contracts, and there can't be any finger pointing when things don't work. Taken together, we offer a comprehensive, easily consumable, and unique value proposition for the multifamily real estate market. Next slide. So in terms of our business model, we have a highly scalable solution, and it's designed to be cash flow positive for our clients. We have a low upfront cost to deploy, and we provide verifiable cost savings, which from our experience are typically about twice the amount of our monthly service fee. And we help clients capture utility incentives, which are really just icing on the cake. Right now, we're focused on the DC market, where we're all based, but we hope to expand to other jurisdictions with building energy performance standards, places like New York and Philadelphia, and now places like St. Louis and the state of New Jersey. These efficiency mandates are increasingly common because policymakers understand the important role that energy efficiency plays in supporting local economies, in meeting sustainability goals, and addressing issues of social and racial justice, which is something I really wish we had more time to go into today. Next slide. Taking a look at our team, we have an exceptional group of people with deep market and domain expertise. Our founder is the legendary inventor Emilio A. Fernandez. He's a member of University of Maryland Clark School of Engineering's Innovation Hall of Fame and namesake for their new E.A. Fernandez Ideas Factory. Across the rest of our team, we bring experience from world-class consulting firms, property management, Silicon Valley, the DoD, and mechanical engineering. And we're also extremely grateful for the expertise provided by our MEIA team, Nikki, Pari, and Eric. I wish I had more time to properly thank them all for their excellent work. Next slide. So what's the ask? First, we're always open to grant and sponsorship opportunities. Second, we are open to connecting with relevant industry partners. Our experience shows us that we're a natural fit with ESCOs, with consulting engineers and mechanical engineers. And finally, if you are aware of any property owners or management firms who you think could benefit from our solution, we'd love an introduction. I'll leave you with the words of former Energy Secretary and Nobel laureate Dr. Stephen Chu, who said, "Energy efficiency is not just low-hanging fruit, it's fruit lying on the ground." And at PulseIQ, we're excited to help our clients pick it up. Thank you all again for your time today. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Adam. Why don't we start with Curtis?
Thank you, Adam. It was a really good presentation, and I agree, this is a massive market that is ripe for disruption. My first question is, how are you going to market? Are you selling B2C as a standalone system, or do you think you'll be more successful in selling B2C, or B2B, excuse me, as a component to a larger solution provided by an ESCO or a company like SparkFund?
Right, so that's a great question. Thank you, Curtis. We're focused mostly on B2B. So my experience is in the property management field. I helped run my family's multifamily real estate management firm for about the last 10 years. And I'm using my relationships in the real estate market here to talk to management companies and property owners that I know. We're working partnerships with consulting engineers, so folks that are speccing out retrofits on large plant equipment, and they're bringing us into the project because we help them make sure that their systems operate as designed. And we find that we've been having good success with mechanical engineers. So the folks that are turning the wrench and doing the preventative maintenance that have these clients, we have a value add for them as well in our partnership. So we've been trying to approach it from all of those ways. And I think the next step for us is to work with ESCOs who are hired by properties to save energy, and we'd be a really good tool in their quiver, especially an arrow in their quiver, pardon me, especially around this type of niche market. And then, of course, you know, we are focused on a rather narrow market, but the goal is that as we expand our capabilities and our experience, that we can expand into other markets as well.
Claire?
Yeah, hi, thanks, Adam. Good presentation.
Thanks, Claire.
I see a lot of presentations like this, and I applaud that you're looking at multifamily, but I don't understand your differentiation with companies like Lucid or Building IQ or Aquacore. Can you dig into a little more detail? I saw your competition slide, but it didn't really resonate with me.
Sure. So I think we have a couple of unique differentiators. One is our availability to appeal to this niche market. Having worked in this space for a long time, I can tell you a lot of the buildings I worked with had a BAS that was 20 years old or none at all. And so there's a lot of room to get in there. And the question is, why isn't it happening? You know, why aren't people doing things that are good for them? If we're presenting basically free money, who doesn't like money? And I think the answer is just people aren't making the right appeal to these building owners. They don't know how to pitch to them. They don't know how to get in with them. And that's something that I think we have a unique angle on. Two, our thermostats are relatively unique. So in these old buildings, you'll typically see these old round Honeywell thermostats that you turn left or right. And the reason that they've never been replaced is because they have high voltage connections to the equipment in the apartments. So most of the other players in the space have low voltage only. You know, Nest does not work in these situations. The Ecobee stuff does not work in these situations. So we have some patented technology that allows us to work on line voltage, both 2 and 3 wire. And I think that, you know, the other reason that we're different is that we have a managed solution. So instead of just playing just for analytics or just for a BAS, we tie the whole package together, which makes it consumable for the managers. And, you know, if you look at an analytics solution, they're going to tell you what to do, but then somebody else has to go and do it. Whereas we can tell you what to do and then actually turn the switch to make it happen.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Adam. This is Michael. Nice job. Well communicated pitch. My question for you is a particular segment of the master meter multifamily market, which is a string of words I never thought I would say together, particularly attractive. Are you looking for areas where there are energy efficiency mandates or some other indicator, or is it more of like where your network is?
So right now, I mean, we're all in the DC area, but the District of Columbia does have a building energy performance standard. And so they are requiring that any building within their market space, and multifamily is one of their segments, that fall below the median score for energy efficiency across that segment has to improve, or they face fines of up to $30,000. So in DC, there's a stick that's telling property owners, get with it or else. And then in other places like Maryland, there are just really generous incentives. Pepco has a wonderful program in Maryland that will give property owners 25% or up to $8,000 for their first, for the 25% of their 3-year contract costs. And so we typically see those incentives and those mandates go hand in hand, and those mandates are growing. So we think there's a lot of opportunity to basically sell to people that have never thought about doing this before, because now A, they have to, and B, it's financially appealing to them.
Curtis, we have time for another round.
Great. I guess a question about your product roadmap. What type of innovation do you still need to work on to further develop or refine your product?
Mhm.
And then given some of the competitors that Claire mentioned, I agree the market is flooded with a bunch of different solutions, both hardware or software enabled. How do you really cut through the noise to differentiate yourself in this space?
That's a great question. So there's a lot that we're doing on product development. One of the things that we are looking to do is expand the type of equipment that our thermostat serves. And I think that's an important task for us, because that'll allow us to get into different types of buildings and different types of segments. And in terms of how do we cut through the noise, I think, because there are so many players, there's a bit of a long tail. There's a lot of room for a lot of people to be out there in the space. And I think when we show results like we're showing from our beta site, of reducing their HVAC costs for the summer by 63%, that sells itself in a lot of regard. In the DC area, there just really aren't a lot of companies that are focused on this particular segment. And I think you're going to find that's true across the country. And I think one of the ways that we get into them is focusing on industry partnerships with the trade associations that focus on this building space, like the Community Associations Institute or the Property Management Association.
Claire?
What partnerships are you developing right now with different ESCOs, recognizing that a lot of ESCOs have products just like this, and typically ESCOs shy away from multifamily because of the incentive structure problem?
Correct. Yeah, we're still looking to find our first couple of fits with ESCOs. We've been most successful lately working with consulting engineers and mechanical engineers. So Claire, if you know any ESCOs that have shied away from multifamily, tell them they don't have to anymore.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Michael?
How do building management companies, and I think you'd be particularly well suited to answer this given your background, how do building management companies make these sorts of decisions on installing equipment and changing their practices like this? And what payback times are they looking for? Earlier you highlighted a year, but I'm wondering how I should think about that.
Right. So, as a property management company, it depends. Some folks, it depends on what level of the company you're looking at. So the manager sitting at the desk of the building, his job is to lease apartments. He doesn't really care. But the asset management folks, a lot of these companies have sustainability teams now. They're looking at utilities, and they have a financial incentive to drive down costs and increase the NOI for the building, for the property owner that they're working on behalf of. So what was the second part of your question, Michael?
Are there specific payback times that they're looking for?
Generally, 3 years or less is considered a good investment. Our deployment tends to be quite a bit less than that, and with utility incentives, even less.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Adam.
Thank you.
And we're going to move to our next part, which is our audience poll, where you select the most investable startup. So you might ask, what does investable mean? An investable startup is attractive to third-party funders. An investable startup has great technology, a great team, and demonstrates the ability to achieve milestones, such as completing our cohort curriculum. So which startup do you think is the most investable? We have the poll open now, and I'll just keep it open for another 20 seconds or so. Okay, hopefully everyone has submitted. So while the judges are continuing to work on their scorecards, I'm excited to introduce University of Maryland professor Kavita Serena, who will discuss clean energy innovation in Maryland. Please note that I will send an email to all of you with the links to the reports mentioned in this presentation. Welcome, Kavita.
Thanks, Brian. I'm excited to be here, and also really so great to hear all of these presentations. So I'm at the School of Public Policy, and Ellen Williams, who is professor in physics and has been very involved in Maryland's energy innovation ecosystem. She and I worked on these two reports together in thinking about what clean energy innovation, what is happening in Maryland, what it means, and how it is an economic development opportunity for the state, which also means why it is relevant for the startups. So next slide, please. So we actually looked at all clean tech startups across the US to identify where clean tech clusters are. And in the US map, you can see that most clean tech startups, there are clearly some clusters, most of them around top research universities or DOE national labs. But Maryland also has an emerging clean tech startup ecosystem. There are two major universities, and even though there are no DOE labs, we identified at least 13 federal research facilities that are relevant for clean tech that many startups actually collaborate with. These include the Army Research Lab, NIST, and several others. Next slide, please. So we also looked at what is really the role of the state, the state of Maryland in supporting clean tech startups. And the really good news is that there's over $400 million of funding per year for clean energy in general in the state. However, most of this goes for mature technologies that have, oh, could you go back, please? Thank you. Mature technologies that have already been proven, and that exceeds over $260 million a year. But also clean tech startups and clean energy technologies, more early stage ones, technologies for the future like electric vehicles, community wind, etc. They receive about $2 million of funding per year. And this is in previous years before we had the Maryland Energy Innovation Accelerator and this growing ecosystem. So next slide, please. So all of this is really an insight into the fact that clean energy does matter for both environment and economic goals for the state. There has been a lot of funding for clean energy, mostly for mature technologies, but that shows there is this clear demand, as also Adam from Pulse IQ had pointed out about the energy efficiency incentives. And then how can startups think about these incentives and the demand there is in the state, and then develop technologies that also link up to that demand. In addition, we also know that clean tech startups bring in investment and create jobs in many emerging areas. So we already saw this range of technologies today, but as you all may know and have heard of, there are other startups growing in storage, grid integration, biotechnology for clean agriculture, etc. in the state. And already, so not even looking in this new set of startups, but looking at the last decade or so, we actually analyzed several clean tech startups in Maryland, all of them. And we found that each company brought in on average about $1.8 million per firm per year to the state. There were several starts per state, starts per year. Most companies were matured, became mature or acquired. Not all companies failed. And the goal is how to improve that even further, so the clean energy innovation ecosystem can develop even more. Next slide, please. So although there is a lot of clean energy investment from the state of Maryland, it is not without some issues, and addressing those issues can help develop the ecosystem even further. One of the main, even though Maryland is a very innovative state in general, most of the state's incentives and funding have been focused on health R&D. So clean energy has not really been a priority for the state in the past. Things are changing with MCEC and MEIA and others, but historically this has not been the case. So we compared how much states spend on R&D from their own budgets, and not federal budgets, but from the state budget. And we found that compared to about 15% spending on health in other states, or on average in the US, Maryland spends about 85% on health rather than on other technology areas. So in terms of spending, it is not diverse, and it has been, the state spending has primarily gone into one area. Similarly, the state incentives for investment have gone into biotech or cybersecurity. So there's clearly this large investment that comes from the state in more mature technologies, but for the early technologies in the past, most of the incentives and spending had been away from clean energy technologies. So to bring this all back together, we can think of many ways in which the clean energy innovation ecosystem can grow and develop further in Maryland. And in our reports, we talked about these in much more detail, but right now I'm going to summarize this very briefly. The first is that clean energy is an economic development opportunity. It brings jobs, it helps startups, it brings in investment, and as companies are in the state and they grow, they also serve the community in various ways. And clean energy is not just renewables or energy efficiency, but it is also a wider range of technologies that we need to think about as relevant to the state and for the broader societal issues in general. What's really exciting I'm seeing today, and I have been hearing about and also observing in the last months, is that the coordination between several state agencies that are involved in energy innovation, from TEDCO, MEI squared, MCEC, MEIA, that's really critical to help all the companies that are here, but then also engage more with the large number of federal research facilities and industry, like Exelon, Lockheed Martin, all of them present in the state. But for all of that, in the end, you actually do need more seed funding for startups, and states have a role in that. State of Maryland has a role in that. It's not just for the private sector or for federal, but it's a combined effort. And then finally, it's really important to have investment incentives also locally. So we have biotech and cybersecurity incentives, but we also need to consider clean tech investments. So as we make clean tech a bigger priority in the state, as it is growing, as we have been talking about today in several ways, our hope is that Maryland will be a bigger and bigger hub for clean tech innovation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing this report with us, and I will certainly circulate it to all the attendees. And so now is the time to see the winner of our audience poll. So who do we have, Sabrina? Alchemity, congratulations. This is good news, exciting for you guys. All right, so the judges, of course, may have a different opinion. So before we announce the judges' selection and the winner of our $1,000 prize, I want to quickly thank the Maryland Clean Energy Center Executive Director, Kathy Magruder, Communications Director Sabrina Bachman, and Assistant Attorney General David Rawl, and the MCEC Board of Directors who were instrumental in the creation of MEIA. I also want to thank Justin Ferguson, our intern from the University of Maryland Robert H. Smith School of Business, MBA first year, who supported all of our teams with excellent market research. And my last bit of housekeeping for today is that when you exit the webinar, you will get sent to a quick Survey Monkey. Please take a second. It's 2 questions. It'll take you 1 second to fill that out. So with that, I would like to introduce Heather Graham from the Maryland Department of Commerce, who will now present the $1,000 prize to the judges' selection. Welcome, Heather.
Great, thank you, Brian, and thanks to the MEIA and MCEC team for letting us be a part of your event today. Maryland Department of Commerce is excited to partner with you, and congratulations to all 3 companies. They were all very impressive presentations, and I know the judges had hard decisions to make as they were highlighting the winner there. Kavita, I also want to thank you for highlighting those opportunities to to focus on clean tech as a growth industry here in Maryland. We've certainly had the opportunity to sit down and talk with Kavita and others about ways that we can further support the growth of that industry here in Maryland, and look forward to continuing those conversations. For those of you who may not be familiar with Maryland Commerce, we are the state's primary economic development agency, and we have a mission of driving job creation and private investment here in the state. I have the opportunity to lead the Strategic Industries and Entrepreneurship team. So between entrepreneurship, innovation, and energy being one of our strategic industries here in Maryland, this is a natural fit for us to partner and support this program. So we really appreciate that opportunity. And I will not say anything more. I know everyone is anxious to hear the winner. And so without further ado, the winner of today's event is Alchemy. Alchemy, thank you. Congratulations to all the companies and to our winner. And thank you to the judges for all of your work and support today.
Great. Thank you so much, Heather. Congratulations to Mike and Eric. I don't know if you guys have anything you want to say.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm sorry, Eric.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, no, thank you so much to the state of Maryland for putting this program together. And we're really excited to have been able to be a part of the first cohort. As someone who works in the conventional energy industry, I'm really encouraged to see states taking the lead. We know that they're really driving this energy transition, and programs like this are gonna be the real drivers, especially for small opportunities and small companies and lab work that really needs that extra push and extra assistance to get it to market. And hopefully this is the start of something great for the state, for the MEIA in general, and certainly for Alchemy and the other companies that are a part of the cohort today. So thank you to all of you who participated. Thank you to Brian and Ben and Justin especially, as they guided us through these past 5 months. It wasn't easy with COVID, but we think we've pulled through, and thank you so much. And also I just want to thank the scientists that I've been working with, Eric and Dongja. It's an inspiration to get to partner with people who are really at the leading edge of this and are looking at ways to solve some of these pressing problems in our world today. So thank you to the whole team, and of course, Greg as well.
Eric?
I just want to thank you all, and I want to thank Mike and Greg for helping us put together this pitch. It's quite different from the ones that I've done in the past, but I was glad to see the outcome, and thank you to the judges and everybody else.
All right, well, thank you so much. And we are finished, and thank you all for attending, and we hope to see you at a future event. Have a great rest of your day.
All right.